Welcome to Betrayal Stories. In today's story, you'll meet Dasha, a woman who learned that sometimes the people who say they love you most can also be the ones who try hardest to control you. Her journey is one of fear, strength, and finally, freedom. My name is Dasha, and this is the story of how I lost myself and found a way back. I was 8 when my parents divorced. My father moved away to Odessa, and my mother remarried a quiet man who seemed kind enough. For years I told myself everything was normal. I visited my dad during holidays, sent him postcards, and cried when I left. He used to hug me tightly at the train station and whisper, "You're still my little girl." As I grew older, his voice calls became more frequent. He wanted to know where I was, who my friends were, what I was wearing, what I ate for dinner. At first it felt like love, a father's care for his daughter. But slowly it turned into something heavier. When I was 16, I stopped being able to breathe easily around him. He didn't like my friends. He said they were a bad influence. He didn't like my stepfather either. He said Mom had replaced him too quickly, and most of all, he didn't like when I spoke about leaving for university. "You're too young to live alone," he said. The world is cruel, so I stayed. Out of guilt, out of confusion, out of something I couldn't name. He was my father, after all. You're supposed to trust your father, but the walls in his apartment felt closer every time I visited. He wanted everything done his way. Meals at exact hours, curtains drawn the same way every night, shoes placed perfectly by the door. If I forgot, he would fall silent for hours, silence that could crush you more than shouting ever could. I remember one winter evening when I came home 5 minutes late from a friend's birthday. He didn't speak to me for 2 days. On the 3rd night, he knocked on my door and simply said, "I'm disappointed in you." That word, disappointed, felt worse than a slap. I spent the whole night crying, promising myself I'd never upset him again. By the time I was 20, I didn't recognize myself. My laughter sounded like someone else's. I stopped, wearing bright clothes because he said they made me look careless. I turned down job offers because he said he couldn't bear to lose me to another city. It wasn't love anymore. It was control wearing the mask of love. One morning, I found an old photo of me and Mom in a drawer. We were laughing at a picnic, my hair tangled in the wind, free and wild. I stared at that girl for a long time. I wanted to be her again. When I told Dad I'd been offered a design internship abroad, his face went pale. "You're joking," he said quietly. Then louder, "You can't go." I tried to reason with him. I said it was my dream, that it was only for a year. He walked out of the room. Later that night, he burned the acceptance letter in the fireplace. The paper curled into black ash while he said, "You belong here with me. The world doesn't care about you." Something broke in me that night. The next morning, I packed a small suitcase and left while he was still asleep. My hands trembled so hard I dropped my keys twice. I took the first bus to the station and didn't look back. The city outside the window looked strange, familiar and foreign at once. For the first time in years, I felt both terrified and free. I moved into a small apartment, started working, and studied design online. But even then, I kept waiting for his voice. Every phone vibration made me jump. I changed my number 3 times, but somehow he always found it. His messages alternated between pleading and fury. "You've betrayed me. Come home. I can forgive you if you stop this nonsense." Months passed. I blocked every contact, but the fear stayed. I learned what it meant to carry someone's shadow long after they're gone. One night as I walked home, it started raining. Heavy, cold, relentless. I stood under a streetlight and suddenly started to laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because I realized I was alone and alive, and nobody could tell me to come back. The sound of my own laughter in the rain was the first sound of freedom. It took years to heal. I went to therapy. I learned that love without respect is not love at all. It's possession. I learned that guilt can be a leash, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is cut it. I eventually found work with a small design studio. My first big project was an illustration about birds escaping a cage. My boss asked why that image meant so much to me. I said, Because it's not just art, it's memory. Sometimes I still dream of that apartment, the dim hallways, the smell of smoke from the fireplace, his footsteps outside my door. But when I wake up, the silence feels peaceful, not frightening. Last summer, I went back to the seaside town where we used to spend holidays when I was a child. The same beach, the same gulls, the same scent of salt and pine. I sat there until sunset and whispered a quiet goodbye, not to him exactly, but to the version of myself that believed I wasn't allowed to live freely. To anyone listening who has ever been controlled by someone they loved, I want you to hear this. Leaving doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you brave. Protecting yourself is not betrayal. It's survival, because sometimes the person you have to escape to find peace is the one who told you that you were their peace. And one day, when you finally breathe without fear, you'll realize that freedom doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with silence, the kind that feels like sunrise after a long, dark night. That was Dasha's story. A story not of rebellion, but of rebirth, of learning that control is not care, that silence is not safety, and that love without freedom is not love at all. Thank you for watching Betrayal Stories. If you've ever felt trapped, know that your story can change too. You are not alone and you deserve to be free.